Testing, testing. No, you're driving. Yeah, I'm still clearing my head from an earlier meeting. We'll let you finish chewing. You got 10 seconds.
Chocolate drool on the table there. Okay. Good afternoon. 3 o'clock sharp. See, this is our March 3rd. Where's this year going?
Good Lord, yeah.
Plant and Equipment Committee Meeting. Call to order. Let's see, do we have any public or committee comments before we get on the list? I see one public. No comments. Okay.
You were hoping.
Number 3, recycling water feasibility study.
I think I will take this one. So,
What if I don't want you? Go ahead.
well,
Go for it.
let's see, we'd have to call in Chuck and Tim.
Yeah.
So we have estimates from Krieger and Stewart and from Tim and Groundwater, his groundwater company. To one, on the Krieger and Stewart side, it would be a cost estimate for a recycled water project that would bring water out and either inject or percolate it into the groundwater aquifer. That project is based primarily on the presumption that we could get water from the city, and that has not materialized, although there should be discussions on that in the future. The other piece is a paper analysis by Parker Groundwater, looking at AEM data, merging it together, looking at the various areas of the valley to include pretty much everywhere where they did AEM study and where we have any sort of notion of what the underlying strata is in the basin, to identify areas where we could potentially perform injection, areas where we could potentially capture water and it would successfully percolate into the deeper aquifer as opposed to just sitting in the perched aquifer, probably as far out as the El Paso Basin and mostly along the Western Mountains. That study is partially related to the study for a recycled water project, and it would include areas like well 36 and what are the likely scenarios, because you'd want to know sort of to cost out what it would cost to inject or percolate water at that area in a recycled water project. You'd really have to know if we're going to go with injection or we're going to go with percolation, because I think they may have different treatment standards. So what we're looking for from this board is sort of some discussion and a recommendation about whether to fund one or both of these. My personal recommendation at this time is I would like to see us move forward with the Parker groundwater study to sort of lay out, where do we think it's possible to capture water, be that runoff, LADWP releases, other stuff, potential places where we could do percolation or injection, and have that at the ready should negotiations with the city turn out to be fruitful and useful in actually designing a recycled water project. But I don't know that I would recommend going forward with the actual recycled water sort of feasibility and cost study until such time as we have a better understanding of whether the city is going to allow us to use that water.
But you're recommending that you'd be okay with getting Tim started in advance of an agreement with the city?
Yeah, I think it's beneficial in a couple of ways. If he gets started first, it provides an additional benefit to the follow-on study, which is he'll have a better idea of exactly what they're going to do with the water and how they have to treat it. So I think that's actually beneficial to do the actual study of how and where it could go in, because it might point us into different options. Like, for instance, we might find that there's an area not at well 36, but maybe only 2 or 3 miles away or 5 miles away. And you say, well, geez, if we pumped it another 5 miles, then I only have to treat it to this standard and I can percolate it into the ground. And it might turn out to be a long-term cost savings, even though you have to pump it further. So I think that's probably a good rationale for doing that study first.
Has Tim mentioned anything about the need to do verification of the analysis with a few wells drilled in the property?
We did discuss that. What he's So what we're trying to do is we're trying to break this down into fiscal year, like what are you going to do this year? What are you going to do in fiscal year 26? And so in our discussion, he said that wells would probably be a likely 27 project. It would probably take him some time to do this paper project between now, to get started. He's got some other things to finish, obviously, putting the final bow tie on the model, some court case stuff, and then sort of move on to that into that paper study about this in 26. And then in 27, if we get, by then we will have gotten past this November timeframe when the city has to really figure out what they're going to do with their water from their effluent from their plant, because their agreement with the GA will have expired in November of 20
Yeah, November of this year.
So we'll have gotten past that, and then we can move forward with the next steps in a little more logical fashion.
Okay. And we don't have to refly AEM. The database is sufficient.
Yeah, there are actually two AEM flyovers, and what happens is they are in two different databases. So one of the major exercises he's going to do is actually integrate the two AEM data into a single database so it has the best available data set to study the whole valley.
All right.
Okay. Based on our experience with the city just recently, including the recent city council meeting, my recommendation was the board was to stop anything we're doing on recycled water until the city contract is up, and then start approaching them again, because they have no interest in dealing with this in any way, shape, or form right now. I will touch briefly. I'm going to get this. I can just give this to George. We did a study back in 2020. Actually, it was based on a previous study and this is about percolation. The percolation alternative has some significant disadvantages. Percolation potential is unknown and requires significant study and I got cut off the last couple words here because I printed large. Previous analysis indicates that the percolation potential may be very low. Total potential demand is limited by percolation potential. Where confining layers exist, percolation only replenishes the upper aquifer. Where confining layers do not exist, it can take considerable time for percolation to get to our aquifer. There's potential for significant evaporation losses to the ponds. Significantly more land is required for percolation than for deep well injection. Therefore, no further consideration is given to the percolation alternative discussion. This was in 2020, and this was at a workshop that we had at the board. So keep that in mind. Maybe new data's come forward, but this particular time, George brought up some points. Maybe you have to treat it less so you can afford the more land for percolation in time, but that's just percolation. But in my opinion, and I'll state this at the board meeting too, is the way that the city is handling this right now precludes me from even recommending we proceed. The city is going to continue to use wastewater as some kind of a carrot for something. And until that sorts out, I think that we're spending money that may never get spent or may never need to be spent. The city, for all I know, may come to us and look at it as a big cash cow. We want to charge an enormous amount for the wastewater. Even though we're required to treat the secondary, we're going to charge you for that, even though we're required to do it. My opinion is, then do what you want with it. Now, keep that in mind that the city is also saying, hey, and when you read the contract that the city had with the GA, it talks about industrial use, which I assume means Searles Valley Minerals. So in Searles Valley Minerals, and speaking with them, they're still interested, and they have a lot of engineering expertise. They don't know what they want to do, and they're willing to move along at a slower rate until the city decides what they want to. But they're looking at presenting next time we go to the city after the contract is up in November, is possibly presenting a combined effort if they determine it's something they want. They're already doing some calculations on piping sizes and what does need to be treated to and what pumping and things like that, but they're not going deeply into it because there's no guarantee from the city they're going to give it up. And so they're in the same boat we are. We want to know that the city's going to allow it to happen. And at what point do we approach them? And do we approach them on a single front? We want it the water district. Do they approach it and say, we want it for Searles Valley Minerals, or do we go in as a team? And one advantage we have using them as a team is and it was implied to me that their engineers would do a lot of work on it. and of course, when I was speaking with Dennis Cruz, their president, he's concerned. The water's there, and what we're going to use it for. Will it be a one-to-one offset? Will we pump and what we get? In other words, if we get 5,000 acre feet, we can pump 5,000 less. I don't know no one knows the answers to those yet. And I think what it's coming to is that, again, my recommendation to the board is that we just put this to bed until the city contract is up, approach them one more time. And if they show interest, now that is, then we move ahead. That doesn't mean that George can't continue to talk with Ron Strand and such. But we got a pretty straightforward from them that they don't want to deal with us at this time. I was very disappointed with it. George can tell you I was disappointed. I looked pretty angry. I was more disappointed than anything. And so nothing's going to happen on the front of getting any kind of an agreement, even a simple agreement, the simplest kind. None of that's going to happen until at least that contract is complete. And keep in mind that contract, when you read it, agreed to pay the city for all their past expenses for GA, which was almost $500,000, and a continual payment of all their legal fees or anything involved with the GA. I don't know how much of that goes away when the contract expires. There's some difference of opinion that that portion stays until the city decides to stop it. Would you stop it? So there's a lot of politics and give and take in here, but I don't disagree with George talking with Ron Strand. I think he should continue to. If he sees any light, little door open, sneak in there as far as you can to see what we can do. But I can't see us spending a lot of time and effort on this until we know the water's available. At this particular point, it isn't.
Well, and we also have a budget issue.
Yeah.
Because we're not flush right now. So
Yeah. So we're talking holding off until November, and if who knows, the city may say, "Hey, we're ready to do it," and then George starts dealing with them, and they say, "We want $4,000 an acre foot for this wastewater." We say, "Nope." So we're still until that stuff is ironed out. We need to know because every bit of cost to this thing, including the cost for the product, which I've used the analogy with the people I've been speaking with about this. Let's assume that I, for some reason, have accumulated a big pile of trash at my house. And I've been told by the county, you got to get rid of that trash. That's called pipe. You got to get rid of that trash. And you come to me and say, "Hey, Ron, I hear you want to get rid of that trash. I'll take it away for you." And I say, "Oh, great. I'm going to charge you $5,000 a ton." What would you do? Keep my trash. Keep go ahead and keep your trash and figure out what you're going to have to do with it. And that's what I'm saying about the wastewater. They're required to treat it as secondary treatment. And if no one takes it from them, they're just going to have to dump it on the ground. And I think I used the term a number of times. What is beneficial use for our community? Dumping it on the ground, and, or even giving it to Cerros Valley Minerals. Is that beneficial use for our community? You can argue all kinds of things. So there's so many things open up yet that maybe George can get some feel where the city is as we approach November. But I think doing anything until November is money that is better spent elsewhere if we need to.
So with that note, I take that advice. That's good advice. Do we have a feel from Tim as to how long he thinks the project would take to complete, so we can kind of understand when we would be ready if we delay him 9 months, 10 months, 12 months from, and I'm guessing as well that he could probably run in parallel with Grigger and Stewart. I mean, at some point they'll need information from him, but they don't need it at the very beginning. So
Yeah.
it's good run in parallel.
Yeah, I think that's fine. They could run in parallel. I was thinking this was probably a 6 or 8 month exercise, given all the other things that Tim is doing.
Okay.
I might ask the board if so there were some other components to that were relatively unrelated to water from the city, and that's the areas he was going to explore for capture of LADWP overflow and potential other areas, maybe in the El Paso area, to explore for whether that's suitable for percolation or injection at some point in the future. And I would wonder if the board want me to go back to Tim and say, we're not going to focus on the injection or the well 36 area at this point in time, but a reduced scope that might allow us to look at some of those other options. Because I know the last time we got caught a little flat-footed when LADWP was dumping all that water. We had a wet year, and there were some, we tried to throw up sandbags and other sort of temporary things, but this would prepare us to think about projects to capture that kind of water as well as, where we talk about these sort of tiered areas as it is dumped out from LAWP when they do, where it can capture and percolate. Like a reduced scope might be useful for some of those purposes. I don't know if the board would be supportive of that.
I would keep in mind too, that even if we were to hold off on this, the city I can't remember the estimated starting date for this new waste treatment plant. It was 2026, maybe mid? Do you have a feel for it?
I believe,
I don't, but I believe they gave us an update that they were ready to go out to bid here in like the next month.
Yeah, they're ready to go out for bid, but I think
they
that-
have 100% design, and I believe what
Right.
they said is they weren't going to start until after the swimming pool. So the swimming pool is going to go first.
Right.
So I suspect they're probably going to want to get pretty well along with the pool to make sure that that's within budget and, all that good stuff.
So they don't.
So I'm thinking probably more
Yeah,
like
you're talking 2
27.
years at least.
Have a bond.
No.
for
Yeah,
this.
I'm
They have a
thinking
bond
probably
rating.
like 27 or later.
Yeah. So we have time. Once they decided moving ahead, once it sorts out. So I don't think that we're losing any time by saying, let's wait and look at where that money might be better spent or better analyzed.
Yeah,
And-
especially since you say the relationship that we have with the current water owner.
Yeah.
Don't know where-
Yeah, and hopefully that begins to sort itself out as they get closer to, we're going to start building the plant. Because even when the plant construction starts, you're talking, years down the, there's nothing simple about it. But and my recommendation, we hold off on spending any money to do with that until we know better where we are on it. We're spinning our wheels as much as we know it's a good project or could be a good project. And we see all these price variations all over the place that the GA has, and we have ours and everything else. It's until the city says we're willing to let you use the water for beneficial use for the community. Until they say that, I don't know, we're nowhere.
I agree. We need
Yeah.
a stake in the ground. We don't
They could easily say, hey, Searles Valley say, we're going to buy it all from you. We're going to pay you, $2,000 an acre foot for that stuff. I'm just throwing numbers out. And they'll say, you know what, that might be better for the city than it is using it for beneficial use for the community.
know. And
Yeah.
their opinion may
It's their-
change once the
Yeah.
phase 2 of the adjudication gets done. And
Yeah.
they find out what their,
Yeah, and that will change a lot too, the adjudication, when we get to that point. A lot's going to happen with it. As far as the other things George talking about, I don't disagree with those. We've always talked about various coffer dams throughout the range up there that could be, it would have to be on base property, but if they're willing to work with us, I even recommended as one of their projects to be used for some of that money that they got from their the fees that they're receiving from COSO Geothermal. And it would put one recommended project was look at some coffer dams that we can collect some of that runoff and actually pump into our aquifer, into our valley.
like
And so-
Mountain Springs Canyon.
Possibly, and then like George says, when LADWP begins to release water, that's an important issue as well. But again, if we're just looking at capturing that water, that has nothing to do with Inyo County. And basically, we have to get LADWP to agree that this is where you dump it, and we're prepared to handle it. And I don't have a problem with looking at that as preliminary project. Where can we do that? How can we work? Don't forget, you got some volunteers out there with some deep wells that said you could use them for injection wells. So that has to be looked at as well. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that's important because we don't want to, I don't think there's going to be any runoff this year. There might be. I just don't think there
Not
will
looking
be.
Good.
It's not looking too good. But I still want to keep exploring the one that Inyo County would have to look at, and that is obviously water banking.
Mhm.
Because I'm getting asked questions, I don't know if you are, George, but I'm getting asked questions that are headed towards Washington, which I assume is Vince, of what's the difference in cost of water from the south to water from the north? What has the GA done? I said, well, the GA's never done analysis on the cost of water from the north under any circumstance. I says, the only one I know that they have done was they taken numbers that we've given them about the water banking project. LADWP proposed many years ago, $55 million, but they always put the total cost of that on us as the valley rather than LADWP. So questions are being asked of, if water comes from the north, what can we do with it? And I'm trying to explain to the people at our meeting that there's little pieces to it. There's the coffer dams, there's the runoff, there's the water banking, and you add all that together and you begin to come up with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 acre feet a year. And so I guess what I'm saying is that the scope that whatever Tim's going to be working on, I think we should concentrate on that kind of stuff. Because that I think we can make work if we can get the military base interested in working with, or at least talking to us about areas where we can coffer dam, collect water and bring it to us. There's water out there to be had. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so is that,
That's sufficient. I know my way ahead.
thank you, George.
I will bring the discussions that we had publicly with the city up at the board meeting on Monday.
Yeah.
I think they need to hear it
Was
and a
that the city
recommendation.
Council meeting? Or was it
Yeah,
a-
city council meeting, yeah. George was there too. Yeah, shortly, we were just there a short while.
Okay, off 5 minutes today?
Pretty much, yeah. Mhm. No, not even that. Yes.
So my question is the committee recommendation enough? Or are we going to take this to the board to get a board recommendation on how to proceed forward?
I would say I think it would be appropriate because Tim has given me sort of a full-blown project description. I'm going to have him scale that back, and I think we'll come back next month and ask for, because we're clearly in not a big rush.
Okay.
So I think the appropriate thing is for me to come back with an actual formal proposal from Tim that sort of scopes out the more limited scope we just described, and bring that to this and not bring it forward.
Perfect.
right.
Thank you, George. Item 4, Northwest Transmission Pipeline.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that to get it in the minutes, so. Okay, so as you know, the pipeline is in the ground. We have the bag that we need to go in and try to find. We have an agreement with the state to say, hey, if we do this and that, and we go in there and we take a look and we camera and we try to find it, and we'll either find it or we won't. So if we don't find it, they've agreed that we've done our due diligence and that we can move forward. So
Okay.
we've been waiting on parts. We've got parts in now. Huh? Okay, we don't have all the parts yet. So we have some of the parts in, and that the contractor is going to need in order to do the work that they've agreed to. And it's a no-cost change order. We're providing parts, they're providing labor and the camera. And we'll get that scheduled as soon as all the parts
How
come
many
in.
cuts into the pipe? How many places are you doing
It's just two,
modifications?
but-
2? Only 2, okay.
So
It's not like 4, 5, or 6 down the line.
No,
Good.
just
Yeah.
two.
I think of it as a two-phase project. The first phase, they'll put a saddle on, and that's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And then Wednesday, they're going to put the camera in, and
No.
if we're lucky, that's our best guess. We'll find the bag in that section of pipe, and no more invasive procedures will be performed. If we don't, then we'll move on to phase 2, where we'll cut into the other most probable location.
Because you do one first and look, and then
Yes.
the other
Yes.
one.
So we're doing the most probable to the next most probable, and in between is just a straight pipe that kind of slopes downhill, so we're like, it's not in there. So,
And it's not been pressurized at any point since it's been installed, is it?
It was pressure tested.
it was pressure tested,
But not float.
well, and we tried to flush the bag out, but
Yeah.
where we're going in phase 1, we're going in the direction we flushed all the water. So the water was always going this way, back kind of where the bag went in, trying to flush it out the way it came in. That's where we're starting first, because we believe since water never really,
Right.
well, when the bag got sucked in, it was flowing the other way. But everything since then has pushed it back, and so that's why we believe that to be the most probable place it would be.
All right.
But I like is the fact that you've got agreement from the state. If I do this as a minimum, then you're relieved of your potential liability with it. And I'm
the
just wondering,
contractor
haven't
has
you
agreed.
used your X-ray vision yet?
Hmm.
You couldn't see it, huh?
No, and
Oh,
I'll have to give
darn.
a lot of credit to the staff. They were,
I thought maybe that would work.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
everybody here has done an outstanding job trying to figure this problem out.
Yeah, it's
Are-
not easy. That's for
With
sure.
this set, are we going to be on schedule for getting this done and getting into Redemacher?
We
Oh,
did have to do an extension, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So item 5 will kind of touch on,
Consolidations, Rademacher.
Well, I'm just going to, yeah, we can. And then I'll go back and will this delay Redemacher?
The
Yeah.
answer is,
possibly.
it's getting pushed a little bit.
Well, we'll talk about when we get there, I guess.
We gotta be right first before we do anything else.
We'll go to, yeah, when we get to consolidations, I got to,
So
couple
what's the
things.
estimate to complete this task?
Couple of weeks at the most, couple of weeks at the most.
Couple weeks, maybe a month.
Mhm.
That would just be closing out final documents after we get final.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once that happens, then we can let the contractor off the hook and we can close everything out.
Yeah, and
But you still have to
just so
flush.
everybody's aware too, that we have asked the contractor for a proposal to put the pipe under
Under the highway at Brady.
Brady. So because we had a blowout on Brady, the pipe ended on the Navy side of 178 at Brady. While there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of in-house, like we don't have the equipment to get the pipe under. So we are asking that contractor to give us an estimate to get it under the street, because we're presumptively assuming that the Brady line is all going to need to be replaced based on what we saw from the last blowout. Jason, how long, what do we have to go, 20, 30 feet? How far do we have to go to find?
If I round up, it's 50 feet, but this is item 5 if you want to go.
Yes,
into
we
it.
want to move on to Brady?
So we'll talk about the damage we found on Brady later.
Thought we were on that for some
We
reason.
kind of transitioned into.
Yeah,
it.
we sort of,
So,
yeah,
let's
segued
transition.
right into it.
Item number 5, Brady Street.
Mhm.
as George was saying, it's about 45 feet. We're going to say 50 feet just to round up of pipe that needs to be removed. So hopefully after this meeting, George and I will go out and they'll have the two ends exposed with good metal ready to weld onto tomorrow.
Okay.
Once the weld-on flanges are done and set, we'll be able to drop the 24-inch PVC in between and begin pressure testing that section and see if it holds.
Yeah.
And then we can slowly bring that line back online and see what happens.
Okay.
And I think the message to be taken out of here is, the pipe broke and about a 2-foot section blew out, right? They had to keep cutting the pipe back to get to good metal. So you had rust, you had corrosion. They had extended out about 50 feet before they found 2 pieces of pipe that actually had metal that was good enough to weld on. So that's indicative of a pipe that's not
It
doing
does
well.
not give us a comfort for the rest
Right.
of the pipe.
This is partly why we're talking about getting under Brady and.
You're on good
other-
metal now.
Yeah, we're on good metal now, but we had to
But
uncover.
I don't know what the other 3 miles. will
Yeah,
give
3
us.
miles looks like. Well,
Yeah.
X-ray vision can work.
Mhm.
Just get that going.
On next time.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
Yeah, we have purchased, what the board approved at the last board meeting, the actual pipe
Okay.
for about a mile of the set.
It'll take us down to Ridgecrest Boulevard, I think. Is that about right?
We're gonna save it for where we need it at this
Yeah.
point in time, but it could be anywhere between Florist and Bowman or
Yeah.
so there,
Bowman and Inukin Road. I don't know, but
But you got a mile.
we have a mile of pipe.
and the staff is looking into a lot of different options for how to most cost effectively get these repairs put in place and,
Reached out to Underground Solutions, Brett Fernelli, who gave me a budgetary number for the fusible PVC, which
Mhm.
we could look at running 1,000-foot sections where we just punch in holes
Yeah.
and then slip line the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
so you essentially, we dig a hole, they come in and
You
put a
slip-
single pipe that
slip
goes
in.
through
Yeah.
into the existing pipe. That way,
Mm.
we don't have to dig the old pipe up or all of it. We don't have to do, the contractor isn't doing all the work other than sliding these large sections. It's all one solid piece. It's,
Yep.
it's,
So you cut a,
No
you
belts.
cut a portion out and then, which is enough to, I don't know what that would
Like a
be,
pit, right.
30, 40 feet
It's
maybe?
called
or-
like a pole pit.
Yeah.
So it's about a 60-foot section.
60 foot, okay.
And then, yeah,
Pulls it through.
we'll pull it through every
And
1,000 feet.
and then obviously that's all connected flange on this end and then the other end, it's dead ended in that
The whole
pipe.
thing. So it'll be about a mile, solid welded pipe.
Yeah.
And then, yes, a flange on either side to connect to the valves.
Okay. All right. So essentially it's, you have PVC, cement, metal, cement, dirt. That's what it all look. that ought to be-
Technically, it'll be PVC, grout.
Grout, that's right.
and-
Grout, that's right. I forgot about the grout in
so
there.
there's some real nice advantages to that. If somebody's inadvertently digging with a backhoe, they're going to hit that old pipe before they hit our new pipe, and
Like conduit.
it is.
And the pipe is a little
Yeah.
more money. The Cell costs a little bit of money, but the efficiency of pulling it through and knowing it's one solid piece is something that we're looking at.
We don't have to do the road repairs on those sections.
Saves a lot.
You don't have to go through CEQA for.
Yeah.
another pipe.
Oh, that's
down.
right. Yeah, I remember you got to watch from the squirrels and the tortoises and,
Look at our staff being efficient and doing what, everybody says government doesn't do.
I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, Chair, if we're going to step back to the transmission line for just a moment, Northwest.
Yeah, follow up.
They're related.
Piping into the desert. What's the latest on that? Do we have anything? Do we have a commitment? They're going to move it? I'm seeing so much stuff now about people come out there and, you got all that piping, the water district has all that piping laying out there in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, it's been on Facebook. several
Yeah, I
times.
know.
I don't think we've heard
Everyone's being
anything
explained. Yeah.
New, but it might be something that maybe George could ask them.
I've actually sent them an email
There
with
you
some
go.
links to the Facebook posts going, you are causing me and my board no
Yeah.
end of grief here. Please let me know what you're going to do. I have not heard back.
Okay. Keep us informed because I'm hearing it. I know you're probably
Yeah.
hearing it. Seeing, yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to say something. And that's
Yeah.
the
Yes.
frustrating part for me right now is that, yeah, I know it's a problem and we're working it, but we don't have a solution.
Yeah. All we can say is that land is owned by
Yes.
the company that put the piping in and was supposed to dispose of it.
Probably be better if it had been fenced off or something,
Something, it could be
Yeah.
nice to put a fence around it with the slats in it or something.
private property somewhere.
I did respond to one of the complaints and said that is private property. You're aware. right?
Yeah.
This is not county line or county
Yeah.
property. It's
And I think our
Be-
lawyers made a valid point, which is that, to do what they're doing, you should have gone to the county and gotten a special use permit
Mhm.
that allows you to do this temporary thing, and they did not do that. And so we do have some limited means of legal recourse through the county. We would prefer not to do this through court. We want our contractor to do the right thing and get it out there, but, worst comes to worst, we're going to do what we have to do.
All right.
Right.
All right. We're back on schedule.
I
Sorry.
would like to point out that the pipe that we removed on Brady has already been hauled away.
You didn't
by
take
the
it. What's
contractor.
in the back of my yard?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Shh. Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be there too, because you're going to charge me $5,000 to move it.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
it's not moving.
All right.
Item 6, water system consolidation.
All right, we got several of these going on. I'll start with June 3. I have a meeting tomorrow with the consulting engineering firm that's finishing up to do the 100% plans and the bid packet. Also talked to Jim today about the agreement. He's working on the agreement language between the district and June 3, and he's giving it probably more of a look than he said he normally would, because he was comparing it to the agreements he'd seen on other consolidations that he's worked on with the other districts, and they're quite different. And he wants to have a kind of a good template for future consolidations. So he's going to work on that a couple days this week. And the plan is to have something to send to the state by the end of this week so they can review it, because they got to approve the language. So once that's done, then we can also use that as a template for hometown and anything else that comes up in the future. Potholing for hometown was done, and Jess and I went out and did the measuring all the potholes, and so Kruger and Stewart has that, and they said it'll be a couple weeks. I'll get that design done, and then that's got to go to the state for approval. I know there was a meeting today between hometown and Division of Drinking Water and the state grant people. I haven't gotten a report back from that yet, but someone who lives out there did come in and discuss a little bit of it with us. But we're getting some pushback on the consolidation out there now. Yeah, that the residents don't seem to want it now after they approached us and wanted it. So how the state's going to push that forward, I don't know. And we need to be sure that if they don't do it, we are reimbursed for the costs that we've already expensed. And I am told at this point that we can already go ahead and submit what we've expensed out there.
Which one's getting pushed back now?
Hometown.
Hometown, huh?
Mhm.
Where'd that come from? Just out of the blue?
I think because we are now out there potholing, measuring,
Yeah.
doing things, people are like, oh, this may really happen.
then you-
Because it's been like 4 years or 5 years since they originally voted to do the consolidation.
Yeah.
And I
There's
think
been some changeover in there.
possibly there's been some change in ownership out there, and
And they've
Um,
not been paying the replenishment fees.
But they
Certainly looking at costs.
they've been
differences.
paying a flat rate for
Yeah.
their water every month out there too, so
They approached us, correct?
they did.
Okay, so that means who's ever handling the pumping And whoever handles the system.
And one gentleman came in today who's been doing the well reads and handling, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but he's 80 years old. So, you know, how long is he going to continue to do that?
And yeah, and exactly. Okay.
So that's where we're at with that. Rademacher, as far as I know, they're working on phase 2 design. We got a preliminary, what do I trying to call it? Alignment of the new pipeline. And that should be getting done here pretty soon. We should have a draft of that. As far as connecting phase 1.
Yeah, that's the one I'm concerned about. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, we had discussed before going ahead and putting the pipe in the ground and then just waiting on doing the connection at
And
Springer.
I think that's what we'll be, we're talking about forming the construction crew, and that'd be something that they can do
Right.
after the Brady line while we're waiting the summer out, is to make sure that Rademacher's in, and if we can prove Brady out and that it's reliable, then we can make the cut into Springer to complete the Rademacher section.
Yeah.
What was the date or the rough month that we gave the GA that we'd be done?
January.
No, I thought we said we'd have it before summertime,
Before
which
summer.
means,
Before summer.
which is, I was called
Rapidly approaching.
Yeah.
March, April at the most. I'm just worried about that. We're going to get every little hiccup we have. We're going to get pushback on somehow, every single hiccup. And those kind of things worry me.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I-
basically one residence out there that's
Yeah.
having a big issue. The others, I'm not so sure we've heard from. So,
Isn't Chuck working with them to?
yeah. And to be honest, I haven't received all the easement documents back. I've only gotten 2 of the 5.
Really?
And I got a call from a third one who said he wanted to discuss it with his attorney. And then the other 2, I haven't heard nothing. So,
Oh.
and I'm not sure if that's going to be a holdup or not, because if long as there's a dedication, road out there, then we should be okay.
Yeah, if there's dedicated road, you got easement, 30 foot on either side or
Right.
50, depending on the road, yeah.
So,
Okay.
May just be a matter of the pipe on their side. Or their side.
yeah, it's only the properties where the pipe is going to be on their side, that the easements were.
Yeah,
requested.
we just need to watch our, I know we're doing what we have to do. We're in a corner in some cases, but I just don't like getting snarked at every single time something like this happens. And we'll tell them to snark at George and he can handle it.
Yeah, and I did even hear from another resident out there who is on a different
Yeah.
well. And she's like, are you gonna make us hook up to the water? The water's, my well's fine. I don't want to hook. I'm like, no, but it's there if you need it. And there'll be fire hydrants. That'll help you lower your.
Don't you find it
insurance rate.
unusual? How far is that well from the well that is bad?
Oh, not that far.
100
Half a
yards,
mile.
half a mile at the most?
Mhm.
I just want to point out that well 10 and well 9A are not that far apart.
And they're completely
Well
very
10
different.
is 11, 12
Arsenic.
arsenic, and 9 is 45.
Yeah.
D.
Wow.
Last time we did it was over 50.
I can vouch for the
Wow.
complaining, I can vouch for the complaining customer. I drank some water out of her hose and I wasn't able to.
No, I'm not saying
No,
that
it
it's-
was
Not
pretty-
palatable.
What I
pretty
question,
nasty.
what I question is the one woman who's coming to you and say, my water's just fine.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years ago, when this whole thing was going in, water was still bad. People were saying, my water's still fine. So it worries me that it's just fine. And then all of a sudden it's not going to be. Okay.
She may have a fancy filtration system on her water as well. Who knows?
You never know.
All right. Is there anything on Stark? I thought Stark was being talked about.
Nothing new from what I reported last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you,
GA is considering it and
Mm-hmm.
do you guys want to,
Dune 3 has to be installed before they can,
yeah.
or they'd have to do it, simultaneously while we're doing the Dune 3 project.
I'll default to the chair, but under consolidation, do we want to at least list them? We don't have to put comments about them, but at least list them because we're up to 4 now, right?
Yep, so we
Hometown,
keep
Dune,
track of
Redmond.
them.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I can list them.
Yeah, just list
Usually
them.
do in the minutes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just list here so I remember them all in case. That's why Stark came to mind as well, but you haven't heard anything
Because
from
we
them.
may end up getting
No.
another one on.
And
there.
then there's Interkern, so
Yeah, well, I don't know if we should put that on there yet. I guess they're handling it is my,
as far as
Yeah.
I
Heard
know.
otherwise.
we'll know come summertime, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty. Well, thank you, Renee.
Mhm.
And I guess the next one, arsenic plants. Jason?
The media has been removed from the vessels, and we're waiting for the extended lift that we can put the new media in, but we will be ready to go for summer.
Hey.
Make sure you got that ready for Renee come Monday.
Hmm.
We
The
will
other
be-
one,
We will
yeah.
be ready.
Not that Renee, no, Renee.
On the topic of arsenic plants, we were able to do a tour for Heartland Charter School. It was really fun. We got to let all the kids and parents and some teachers get out there and see what we do and ask their questions, and it was a good
Great.
tour.
All right.
For you.
Who did the tour?
It was Caleb Griffin,
Oh,
Jose
okay.
Serna, Ken Silliman, and myself.
All right. Thanks, guys. That's pretty nice.
How many kids?
30.
Ooh, you had a gaggle.
And they range anywhere from TK to high school. So
Wow, that's
Nice.
pretty good. All right.
Well, thanks for doing that. That's
Yeah,
good
thank
for
you.
public relations, if nothing else.
you'll see.
Make
some
sure that's on
pictures.
our agenda for public relations when you talk about it, because I think that's important, yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, future agenda items.
Boy, I think we're covering it.
Yeah, this is a nice discussion today.
Anything from the staff? Anything you guys want added? Jason, nobody?
You know, I have placeholders for certain things, but nothing in particular.
Nothing in particular.
Okay.
I appreciate it. You guys got your hands full, that's for sure. You know, there's no doubt about it.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot going on, yeah.
Proud of what you guys are doing.
Yep. All right.
All right, well, we've got an adjournment at 3:40. Hey.
Do you want to know? Just looking at changing Ben, anything.